Malolele, we're very fortunate at Pasifika TV and Radio to have on the line from here in Brisbane, Australia, Graham Kenna. Graham Kenna was working with DFAT as an advisor in logistics to NEMO, which is the National Emergency Management Organization in the Kingdom of Tonga. Did a lot of work in terms of advising and assisting NEMO and the Tongan government in preparations for natural disasters, and in particular for such a time as this, as a tsunami in the kingdom. Graham, maloilele, and great to have you here on the program.
Thank you, Suli. It's nice to be with you, and please feel free to the people of Tonga. Anything that I could do to assist, I'm glad. Be very happy to do it.
Lovely. Graham, look, you spent several years working in the Kingdom of Tonga, in particular with logistics and planning for I guess, a situation such as what we have on hand at the moment. I know you were there for Tropical Cyclone Gita. Could you talk us through a little bit about what would be going on right now on the ground in Tonga?
Look, the most important thing for Tonga to be doing at the moment is to be getting prepared to receive international goods. I know that the airport is covered in dust and needs a lot of cleaning up. Well, I believe that started yesterday. As soon as that can happen, international aid flights will be able to get into Nuku'alofa. Secondly, you need transportation for these goods that are going to be coming in there to get out to the places that's required. I'm sure that NEMO and the government in Tonga would be preparing for distributions right before these items even leave Australia and New Zealand and wherever else they're coming from. There is adequate transportation in Tonga to get urgently needed items out to the population. So I think it's just a matter now of us getting that airport ready and getting those flights in. Also, I believe the New Zealand and the Australian Navy are preparing to send ships into Tonga. So people on the ground in Tonga now need to make sure that the wharves are okay to receive these goods at the three major islands at the moment.
How well prepared was Tonga for, or at least Tongatapu, it's the main island, for a disaster such as a volcano eruption and subsequent tsunami?
I was in Tonga for 3.5 years, and we did a lot of work in getting doing evacuation plans. We did evacuation plans in just about every school in Tonga, and we had local evacuation plans with signs, advised escape routes for people to take. I was sad to see before I left Tonga, a lot of these signs had been damaged. There was also offshore wave measuring buoys so that a warning could go out if there are any large size waves, be it from a tsunami or be it from just wave surges. Unfortunately, some fishermen decided that they wanted to tie their boats to these buoys and they were damaged. But we did a lot of work in preparing people for evacuations to safer ground. And we hope that that stuck. I know that recently NEMO also conducted more evacuation exercises with the population on Tongatapu. I'm not sure about the other major islands.
And I, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that you had a hand in Tonga obtaining funds towards building a warehouse with supplies for to be put somewhere placed around Matagi Ewa in the evacuation zone for situations where Tonga has a tropical cyclone or a natural disaster like this. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's correct. I saw that there was a real need to have pre-positioned emergency supplies in Tonga so that we wouldn't have to have this great panic whenever anything serious happened, that we had some life-saving equipment on the ground in Tonga that could be distributed immediately after any sort of a major event. This worked after Gita. We had stores in Ewa. We also had large stores in Nuku'alofa, which we were able to use the naval vessels to take to Ewa and take to the outer islands. We also had small stores in Hapai and also in Vavau. So we were able to distribute immediately before even any of the international aid came in. So it was sort of very important that we got that out to those who were most desperately in need. It was well coordinated. It went particularly well. I was very proud of the way the Tongan people within Tonga responded to that emergency. Everyone got in and gave us a hand, and we got it done very quickly.
One of the biggest concerns on the minds of our Tongan diaspora and anyone overseas trying to communicate with Tonga is this damage to the cable, which is Tonga is key to international telephone connections as well as internet and so on. I know it's not the first time the internet cable has been cut from Tonga. Last time it was cut in 3 or 4 places a few years ago. What sort of, I guess a takeaway from this would be for Tonga moving forward in terms of a logistical way that we can quickly get telecommunications or some sort of temporary communications up online. At the moment, we're relying on satellite phones that it seems only the Australian, New Zealand, maybe British High Commissions have access to.
Yeah, there was another thing that I pushed for, but no one seemed too interested in it. The donors weren't interested. But I thought there should have been a stock of satellite telephones that they're expensive if you use them, but they're not expensive if you rent them and have them on standby. And I think that would have been the answer. There'd be, a wonderful opportunity for a donor somewhere to supply a couple of satellite phones so that they could be based in the major islands and people can get in touch with those overseas in these sort of situations. Personally, I had a satellite telephone, and I can tell you if I was still in Tonga, anyone that wanted to use it would be allowed to use it. So it's very important, both for the diaspora and for the people within Tonga, that they get knowledge from their families and relatives, which gives them a little bit of a boost in such a dramatic time.
From a emergency relief logistical perspective, some of the concerns have now been turning our minds to the outer islands of Ha'apai and even the outer islands around Tongatapu. Particularly, we've heard news this morning, reports of alert beacons coming out of the islands of Mango and Whanoi, I think Whanoi Hua in Ha'apai. What would be the situation on the ground in Tonga in terms of what sort of support do you think these islands would be experiencing right now? What would be the immediate needs other than, I suppose, water and food? But if these islands are being completely submerged, what would the situation look like on the ground?
Yeah, I imagine that the Navy, the Tongan Navy would be responding. Well, I know that they are responding to these outer islands as quickly as they possibly can. I did see a photo of the NEMO office in Ha'apai. It is not badly damaged. It's quite serviceable. So that tells me that that part of Ha'apai where the NEMO office isn't too badly damaged. I do know that there's 200,000 litres of fresh water in a tank at one of the resorts in Ha'apai, which could be used while desalination plants from Nuku'alofa are sent to Ha'apai. The patrol boats also have desalination plants, and I guess they could be used in emergency situations to make as much water as possible for the people in the outer islands. So I think there would be a rescue operation underway at the moment. I also believe Atata has been badly affected, and there may need to be a rescue operation launched there. But after seeing the way that the responders worked after Cyclone Gita, I'm confident that within a few days that a lot of these people will get some sort of relief. My major concern is that this is not over. It's not over by a long way. There are possibilities of further tsunamis or further volcanic activity. I am particularly concerned about food security because there will obviously be no fish around Ha'apai for a long, long time. I know a lot of the gardens would have been destroyed or badly damaged with salt water, and the ash is going to also destroy a lot of the agriculture. So it's even worse than what Gita, the damage done, the damage caused, the long-term damage is a lot worse than Gita. And I think it's going to take quite some time and a lot of international assistance to get Tonga back to where we want it.
You've touched on a really good point there in terms of the, I guess, the damage to agriculture and food supplies. What sort of damage would the volcanic activity in the water, in the sea, be impacting on the marine life? I'm personally not too familiar with volcanic activity and what that looks like in terms of the chemicals in the water.
Yeah, I don't know a great deal myself, and I don't claim to, but I have done a little bit of research this morning on it, and it can be quite toxic. But I know that volcano has been active. It was active when I was in Ha'apai 5 years ago. We saw smoke coming from it. It's been active for a long time, but this big blow has created a lot of poisonous chemicals within the water around the volcano site. It will eventually flush, but it's going to take a long time. And I don't imagine there'd be any fish life whatsoever within quite a distance from volcano.
Finally, community and various community and MPs and so forth have already been contacting us, wanting to know what kind of assistance supply. And I know that you and I have had this conversation before, the great rush from diaspora communities, particularly to fill up containers and send containers to Tonga and so forth. What sort of support would Tonga likely need, mostly from the diaspora during a natural disaster of this magnitude?
Yeah, as you will remember, and a lot of the diaspora will know, I am against people loading up containers with the rubbish out of their garage and sending it over to Tonga. There's no room to take more rubbish into Tonga. We don't have anywhere to dispose of it when it's not used. I've always suggested that money is the best thing to send. Send remittances of cash to your family and your loved ones over there. If you do insist on sending something over, check with the people on the ground when we can talk to them and see what is needed the most. I did see a lot after Gita, sent particularly from New Zealand. A lot of things that were sent over there were things that the people could have bought within Tonga and could have stimulated the market there. It's no use sending over packets of noodles when you can buy packets of noodles in Tonga, and people were exchanging it with other people for different things. So if you gave them cash, they could use that to purchase whatever they need. They'll need building materials, and and also food and water is going to be desperately needed. But NEMO does have two very large desalination plants, which I expect would be given over to the Navy at the moment for them to start producing fresh drinking water. And then NEMO also has tanker trucks that can take that out and deliver it around to villages. It'll be a slow process, but they will get it done. I've been doing disasters around the world for 30 years, and I was very, very proud to be able to work with the Tongan people, and in particular, His Majesty's Armed Forces, who work day and night to assist their people after Gita. I am sure they're on the ground and doing it just as busily now.
That's excellent. Is there anything else that you'd like to add that we haven't touched on in our conversation in terms of the logistics response and the relief response in the Kingdom of Tonga?
No, it's just that I don't want people to think that it's over. I don't think it's over. I don't think it's ever going to be as bad as that blast was on Saturday, but it's not over. Tonga's going to need a lot of help for a long, long time. And if I can encourage my Australian government, and also the other governments around the world, to assist Tonga as much as possible to get through this. Tongan people are very resilient, we know that, but they just need some assistance for this time.
Awesome, Graham Kenna, thank you so much for your time. Malo Alpito.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.